So I've been playing 10,000 Bullets. So, I'd like to set up this review with a hypothetical regarding what this is, as, you see, 10,000 Bullets appears to me as if the devs both played and loved Devil May Cry, and said, yeah, we can do that, only to find out that they couldn't, as animating all of those moves and balancing shit to work good, making for satisfying swordplay is actually really fucking hard. Hence why games like that only come out once in a blue waffle. So they decided to ditch the sword and focus solely on the guns, taking influences from the John Woo and the Matrixes while keeping around DMC's sense of style and skill, as well as his general structure and progression. And so, thus, in an effort to make DMC and failing, they accidentally, without knowing, created Max Payne. Mixed with No More Heroes.
What the hell?
Hey, stranger, the name's Joe, but you could call me like...
And also anime and visual novel. Known in Japan as The Moonlit Shadow. 10,000 Bullets is a game about a boy who might just fire that exact amount of bullets over the course of the entire game. And it's actually an all-stars project of sorts, believe it or not. It was produced by the creator of the first 3 Suikoden games and had the composer of Xenogears and Chrono Trigger working on it, as well as the model designer of Tekken 5 through Tag 2 doing the character art. What could possibly go wrong? Well, the main character is called Crow and he's Irish, yet he sounds like this.
My first memory was of blood flowing. My first thoughts were of revenge.
And his best friend is called Judas. What could gameplay basics, linear corridor shooting, combos, bullet time is what my note said, so I'll take it that that's true. As, you see, Crow is sorta kinda working for but fighting against the Mafia, cause he's a hitman, and so other wacky zany hitmen with henchmen will come at him with guns ablaze, which will be the frame for the game going forward, i.e. levels with theme and boys, boss fight.
I needed you. You were the best killer I had. Now, you're just too powerful. I have to take you out before you become a real threat. You know too much, Crow.
You're crazy.
As I said, while it is technically a shooter, it functions more like a hack and slasher in that you don't freely aim like a normal, but instead use a Dirge of May Cry radar lock-on system with its own entire set of mechanics. Thing B is that as you lock on, you'll see the cursor indicating such blinking red with a rhythm, and if you get on that rhythm and shoot Pondy red, you will critical hit one-shotting a boy instantly. Plus, the lock-on automatically zips to the next target without interrupting the flow of said red ring, not to mention that it lets you do this manually as well, thus allowing you to essentially chain one-shots like a motherfucker. Which is cool enough on its own, but imagine doing that with bullet time in midair while dodging the actually rendered non-hit scanny bullets, and you may begin to see why shit good. Additionally, doing said successory hits fills up your gun gauge, which allows you to perform gunslinger moves, aka skills that unlock over the course of the game, which can be assigned to the face butts and D-pads and can include anything from timed invulnerability, hit scan, AoE room clearers, or a kick to launch dudes up for a wee bullet time juggle, and also things like more better or double jumps or even stat increases like bigger gauge. Essentially, making it a skill system and a leveling system all in one. And adding to all of that is the fact that you actually need to reload. Tactful button presses, timed bullet times, and airborne boys are all required to be a stylish, rhythmical fast child, which is legitimately pretty tough too. I mean, you really need to get good with the grooves and time shit properly, as Tomb Raidering your guns away will only get you a one-way ticket to die, and also, damage is as big and guns fire fast, so it's equally essential that you learn when to reload and which skills do what and for how long. Pretty much, while it might not have a style meter per se, the only way to get good is still to play it while looking as cool as vampirically possible, going maximum Matrix May Woo on him. Trust me, things like the bullet times, the actual bullets and the specials and other gauge drainers are not to be used conservatively, but instead with a timing and a high frequency. It is, again, as stated, a shooter with character action sensibilities. It is a very PS2-esque game, to say the least. The title screen hit you with the and the music is all jazzy and shit. It's honestly quite strong aesthetically, despite it looking really low budge. It's clearly a passion project, made by people who worked on bigger games getting together in the weekends to make this while binging Cowboy Bebop and playing DMC. 2, probably. Crow is literally just Devil May Cry 2 Dante. Also, the soundtrack is great, combining jazz, hip-hop, and dub reggae with hokey instrumentation that tries its darndest to sound real, all topped off by some dude rapping 4-beat boom-bap bars over a track using triplets, constantly sounding offbeat near the end of each line as a result.
Crazy hardcore with the touch of jazz, microphone chemistry that busts your ass. V5 full funk, oh no you better run, this winter was as hot and lock this.
Like, just, come on. You also got these edgy school shooter coat-looking motherfuckers hanging out in bars with the most normal-looking people in Italy to reggae music with menus that look straight out of Squaresoft. And none of these things mix at all, and yet I still kind of love it. Also, while most of the story is brought to you by visual novel, the leftover scraps of voice acting kicking off and bookending each mission suck scrumptious fuck, consisting solely out of very non-badass people delivering very badass lines.
Last chance. Did somebody hire you?
I'm not going to tell you.
Even if I fire a round right between your eyes? As a realist, you know what'll happen.
Yes, I know, but I'm no coward. Very well. I'll tell you one thing.
Start talking.
It's definitely on a budget, so to say. Which might also be why the animation, walk cycles, camera, collision, and just about everything is really janky and jerky. Even the lock-on can be a tad fuzzy, as it typically only picks on things within frame and frame of fuck because the manual cameras suck. Which ain't even too bad in the long linear corridors where it's just boys running out of doors and nothing much else, but there's also some busier arena-type levels with tons of shootable environmental objects that can also be locked on too, and yeah, these aren't great. There's nothing quite like continuously locking onto a fucking car whilst trying to shoot the guys who are killing you, only to then kill yourself due to said car blowing up in your face. Maybe I'm missing out on something here, but even when manually flipping the cursor around, I still had a hard time shooting what I wanted to. But then, in that, the stages where everything blow are quite the jerky looking spectacle due to the beefy, loud and distorted as fuck sound effects and all of the various flashes and rumbles that take effect every time you critical, as the red timer syncs up to the music while you're flying around upside down in slow-mo as a fucking bus explodes, and also just the floor is just on fire. It's fine. Honestly, it'd almost be like a beta version of Vanquish or like a slightly more lavish Doom. It's actually pretty great. Not to mention all of the bars and restaurants which you get the fuck up proper, and you might begin to feel like an Italian John Woo or a Chinese Bruce Lee or a girl. As yeah, well, the game honestly would have been more than solid enough with just Crow cannon foddering his way about. You also get 2 additional friendos who will have their own entire playstyles. Girl being mostly like Crow, just slightly more agile physically and a bit weaker on the damage end of the spectrum, thus forcing more defensive play, which is neat. But oh man, Bruce over here quickly became my favorite thing ever, as he doesn't use guns and is all melee. Control-wise, he's the same for sure, but because of that, his punches track like bullets, actually giving him the hit scan of all people. In that he pretty much snaps to wherever the nearest enemy be, meaning that when you say dragon kick repeatedly, he'll essentially turn into a deranged and badly programmed cat from Gravity Rush. And also, he makes level geometry its bitch, with his basic combos clipping and scanning his way through entire Dynasty Warriors worth of crowds, only more simple and somehow more fun. I really did not expect this, but I'm super fucking glad that it's here, as it elevates the game from, hey, this is surprisingly okay, to, hey, I will keep playing this forever. Shit's genuinely pretty fucking good. Now, what isn't pretty fucking good is the story, in that it's entirely too fucking stupid to function. You got your mans over here being set up by Papa Tonio because him and the mafia hitmen want to, and I quote, touch their blood because their mom was a vampire, thus special bullet time powers, I guess. All characters are generic asshole motherfuckers who are dumb, and yet the presentation of it all still makes it kind of okay. It's clearly not a serious game, nor does the plot really waste your time at all either. Mostly only serving to set up the stages like, hey, beepity boopy, some guy is looking for you at the bar, I'm Italian. And then you go to the bar where the tender will say, ah, pizza pasta, I'm so tender, eh? Guys in the alley, fuck you. And then you go to the alley from which a level spawns ending with a boss fight. Which ain't a bad way to pace things, honestly, and all the levels themselves never overstay their welcome either, nor do the amount of enemies or their admittedly cannon foddery varieties get boring too. Though, I'd be lying if I said that the real meat wasn't the boss fights. Actually, all having their own gimmick, testing your skill one way or another with stuff like this dude who duplicates, forcing you to lock on good, and knowing the trigger timing to take out his clones as ASAP as possible, or this guy who teleports and dashes, electrifying the floor, testing if you know how to airborne to avoid, and there's even a fat guy who just hailstorms bullets at you, and this rocket motherfucker who uses homing missiles to confuse and distract your lock-on, and so on. It's great and good, and it all feels like a fast, action-heavy puzzle where the objective is to not get cheese grated within the first 5 fucking minutes. So yeah, somehow, against all odds, 10,000 bullets is actually pretty great. Not a deep masterpiece or anything, but just strong enough to where it's for the 5-hour runtime gives it that arcadey replayability with new modes and unlocks and moves and characters and shit to experiment with. Oh, so that's where the penguin from Lost Odyssey went. God, that was like the greatest joke I've ever written, you guys. Please like and subscribe.